Hello everyone. Today we are going to be talking about the idea of slope. We've already touched on the idea of slope a little bit, but today we're going to be talking about slope between points and slope if you were looking at a table of values. So go ahead and follow along with your notes. Slope is defined as the rate of change of a function, which means that the change in y is divided by the change in x. If you want to write this a different way, you can say the change in y divided by the change in x is equal to the slope. Again, this little triangle is called delta, and it stands for change. Okay, so let's say you were looking at a graph. Basically, you're trying to see how far did this change in terms of the y-axis, and then how far did this change in terms of the x-axis, and dividing them. So to find the slope from a table of values, you find the difference in the y values, find the difference in the x values, and divide the change in y by the change in x. Note, you want to make sure to keep track of positive and negative change. Common mistakes happen when you're dividing a negative by a positive, or positive by a positive, negative by a negative. Make sure you want to keep your signs in line. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do 6 different examples. 3 of the examples will be looking at a table of values, and then 3 of the examples will be looking at specific points. So if you're looking at example 1, what you're going to do is find the change in y. So we're going to label that with the green. So if I was going from 10 to 2, I'm going to ask myself, what's the difference there? Well, I know I subtracted, and I know that I subtracted 8. Now if I'm looking at my change in x, let's do that in red. From 1 to 3, that actually went up, so I know that it increased. I added 2. So now I'm going to go ahead and take my change in y and divide it by my change in x. Negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4, and that is my slope. Okay, now you might be wondering about the other few points here, so let's check those. Let's see if we get something different. So again, from 2 to negative 14, we should know that that is subtracting 16. From 3 to 7, that's adding 4. So if I divide again, negative 16 divided by a positive 4, that will also give me a negative 4. So that was my rate of change, my slope, right here. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next example. So again, you could actually just do the first set of points. So let's go ahead and do the change in y in green again. 11 to 6, I know that's subtracting 5. Negative 2 to 0, that's actually adding 2. So I'm going to divide my change in y by my change in x. Negative divided by a positive is negative. And actually 2 doesn't divide into 5 evenly, so I can leave it like that. Or if you want to, you can make it into a mixed number, negative 2 1/2. 2 1/2. 2 goes into 5 twice, and then 1 is left over. So that's how you get negative 2 1/2. Okay, let's move on to, and then we can check the bottom again. 6 to 1, that's also subtracting 5. 0 to 2, that's also adding 2. So we have the same numbers. We divide negative 5 by positive 2, and we get the same answer. Okay, let's move on. Example 3, from 2 to 6, I'm adding 4. From negative 5 to negative 3, I'm adding 2. You might be wondering, why am I adding 2? It's because I'm moving to the right on a number line. I'm actually going less negative. Okay, so I could do 4. Let's color code this. So it's the positive 4 from the y side divided by positive 2, and that's going to give me a positive 2. So my slope is positive 2. I can check the other 2 points just to make sure. I'm adding 6, and here I'm adding 3. I know 6 divided by 3 is equal to 2. Okay, let me go ahead and move on to the next examples. Try and erase all this. Okay, so now in this example, you're just going to see 2 different points. It says, find the slope of the line between the points 0, 7 and 4, 6. There's a few different ways that we can do this, but since we just talked about a table, it might be easiest if we just continue to use a table. So I'm going to go x, y. I'm just going to put these points into the table. So 0, 7, that'll be 0, 7. And then 4, 6, that'll be 4, 6. Right? Because these are all x, y, x, y. Going to use the same color coding again. So I'm looking at my y values from 7 to 6, that's subtracting 1. From 0 to 4, that's adding 4. So I'm going to go ahead and take my change in y, -1, and divide it by +4. Now I know a negative divided by a positive is a negative, and 4 actually does not go into 1 evenly, so my slope is -1/4. Okay, let's look at the second example. Find the slope of the line between points -1, 3 and 4, 13. Go ahead and set up your table. X, y. So that's -1, 3 and 4, 13. These are just coming from these points right here. I look at my y values from 3 to 13. I'm adding 10. From -1 to +4, I'm adding 5. If you're not sure how I got that, you might want to look on your number line. Those are 5 spaces away, and you're moving to the right, so it's adding 5. Go ahead and take your change in y, divide it by your change in x. So again, that means +10 divided by +5, and I'm getting that from here and from here. And +10 divided by a +5, that does divide evenly into a +2, so my slope is 2. I'm going to go ahead and erase some of this work so I can do example 3. If I'm looking at example 3, I'm going to continue with the same idea. I'm going to put these into a table of values, so that's x, y, -4, -5, so that's x and this is y, and -1, -8, same thing, x and y. So if I'm looking at my y values, -5 to -8, I'm subtracting 3. I'm going more negative. And my x values, I'm going from -4 to -1. I'm actually adding 3 because it's moving to the right and becoming less negative. So I'm going to take my change in y, divide it by my change in x. So that's going to be -3 divided by +3. +3. And a negative divided by a positive is a negative, and 3 goes into 3 once, so my slope is equal to -1. Okay, if you have any questions, let me know.